Rob Lewis, what's some of the highlights? What's something that stuck out to you over the course of the first week of fall camp? Could be offense, could be defense. What stood out to you?
Man, I mean, I don't want to just pump the hyperbole train too much, but just I mean, so much more athletic, and I don't mean necessarily than last year or what. Just really, if you take the big picture and just look at where this thing started with Heupel, I mean, it's just night and day. I mean, that's reflected obviously in the rankings and the wins and whatnot. But I mean, I started receiver, and you just look at you know long guys that can run. I mean, defensive back. I mean, I don't. So many of those guys are young, but I guess Tim Banks said the other day, I don't know if they can play yet, but we got some guys that can pick them up and put them down. I mean, that looks to be the case. But there's a lot of quick twitch athletes over there. I mean, just better, bigger, stronger, faster. I mean, it just looks so much more like a legit SEC roster. I mean, and as far from the stuff that we get to see, especially at this early in camp, that's probably about as bold as I want to go. But man, just looks like a legit SEC football team, and there's freshmen to be excited about. There's upperclassmen to be excited about. Maybe a generational quarterback that looks the part out there. I mean, there's things have changed a lot.
I think, and Rob, I think that's what you're saying too. Like, I think their ones have looked fine. It's been when they had to go twos.
That's a good
like it's the twos and threes that look like they're SEC ready. I mean, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker. I mean, tight end. That position that continues to stand out to me because I think they're just more athletic there than they were a year ago. And
you don't look now, AP. That room looks. I mean, obviously, you're recruiting well, but that room looks good right now. And it looks good for some years to come.
Yeah, I mean, and then Ablin's done a nice job, and they stumbled upon Miles Kitzelman, who looks like he's going to really help this football team. Ethan Davis continues to progress, and Holden stays as well. So you like where they're at, with that room, and the only rooms I really even worry about are running back, and it's not because they don't have talent. I think they have talent; they just don't have experience. And then, of course, quarterback, where they just are kind of where they are. I mean, it's Nico, and then there's obviously a drop off after that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I look at this team, if you're taking the big picture view, as Rob was talking about earlier, they've just come a million miles defensively from a talent standpoint. I mean, there are some guys who are young players on this team that would have gotten, a starting job when they handed out a uniform in year one, had they been here.
Yeah.
And those guys have spent time developing. I mean, you look at where Joshua Josephs is right now. You look at where the development of Tyree West and Bryson Eason, and now all of a sudden Omari Thomas is not going to have. He's not playing 40 or 50 snaps a game. He's playing 25. And then you look at him at linebacker. I mean, they haven't played with anybody that looks like Arion Carter since they've been here. And so, to me, when you talk about look test, which is what the first week of camp is before you get to a scrimmage and you start getting some feedback on how things go when you're really playing full padded 11-on-11 football, to me, the eyeball test for them on defense, when you think back to where they were those first year, even the first 2 years, man, they look a lot different. They just look dramatically different top to bottom defensively from an athletic standpoint, a physicality standpoint, all those things. And maybe I take that view because offensively, I don't worry about their success offensively because schematically that thing has worked everywhere they've ever been, including the SEC before they got to Tennessee. So maybe I assume too much offensively, but you walk down there and look at them on defense, and they just look a lot different than they did 3 years ago.
AP, let's talk offensive line. You come back in, you return 4 starters who started the season opener last year. So you knew it, and that was a lot of the talk on a Monday. You have a veteran group. You have a group that's got 5th and 6th and 1 7th-year guy. Obviously, a lot of the question marks about left guard. Where are you at on the offensive line? What have you seen from Lance Hurd? He's been a little limited to begin fall camp. What do you like about that group?
Yeah, I mean, Lance had a knee cleanup like in July, and he's basically about ready to go. But Tennessee's not going to rush him back. I mean, I think if they can get him from 11-on-11 work in practice and maybe 1 scrimmage, I think they'd be pretty happy. They don't want to risk anything for the season, but I think he'll be good. And John Campbell's an older guy who I think is he's the fall camp maintenance guy. And understands his body. Stay healthy for the season. Coop Mays, similar. Maybe you see him just a little bit more. Spraggins, easing him back in. And then I think Andre Keurig is the one you have to kind of monitor here just because he's coming in off injury. I think that's where, some of the older offensive linemen would like Tennessee to go as far as, who they start at left guard. But we'll see what happens. You got to be out there to practice before you earn a starting job. And, he's kind of been limited the last couple of practices. So we'll see kind of where it all goes. But Tennessee does have plenty of bodies and plenty of, I think, depth compared to a year ago.
Rob, are you buying this idea that Glenn Ellerbe is going to rotate guys on the offensive line?
And rotation, I think, is probably going to be a strong word for me. I mean, I can see them playing, especially early at left guard, just, because, there's some older dudes that have a lot of separation. I could see them, giving those guys all a little run. But I don't see I'll be surprised if they actually have a true rotation. Now, I think they'll, maybe play a utility guy here and there during a game, but I don't. Do you think it's going to be? Every third series you go in Jackson Lampley. I don't think it's going to be like that.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about this at the complex yesterday, and like there's a difference in when you're up a couple of scores in the second half. Like, I get Cooper Mays a breather. Yeah, I get John Campbell out of there, but like what we saw at left guard last year against Virginia, like I could maybe see that. And tell me if I'm wrong, Brent. I can maybe see that as the quote unquote rotation. This football season. It's like, okay, Andre Keurig gets the start, Jackson Lampley gets Series 3, or whoever. Because like in a tight ball game, SEC contest, you're not taking Cooper Mays, John Campbell, Lance Hurd, Jamontes Spraggins out of the game. You're just not. But maybe you do that left guard. That's what I could see.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I've got to see it to believe it. Just like I've got to see him play more safeties than two safeties, because they just haven't done that. I'm with Rob. I think rotation is a strong word, because you're not just. I don't know that they're going to be close enough at those positions where you say, man, I've got a 1A and a 1B at right guard. We know they don't have a 1A and a 1B at center. We know that. There is no rotation at center. Okay. But do they have a 1A and a 1B at any other spot other than potentially left guard? I'm not sure that they do. And if they don't, then I'm not sure how much you rotate. And I think Ellerbe kind of noted that when he talked about, you can rotate if they're even, but how many of those positions when you look across the board are even, AP? I mean, Lance Hurd is their best left tackle. Who's their second best, and how close is he to Lance Hurd?
Their second best would be John Campbell. I mean, don't you think
if there's an injury, they're sliding, right? I agree. But I mean, is Larry Johnson the third 1B to John Campbell's 1A at right tackle? I don't think so. So how much do you in a real tight ball game are you really rotating somebody? Hey, we're designing you to get the third series of the game. When we change running backs, we're going to change guards. I don't know that I don't know that that's what you're going to see. I think that's certainly going to be interesting to watch. Not week one. Okay. You can rotate all you want to week one. I'm talking about when you get into week 2, week 4, and some other places along the way this season.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I think where Ellerbe was coming from and what Heupel's been preaching, is not rotate every third series. It's, hey, when the game is no longer in doubt, whether it's Tennessee up 25 or down 25, get guys out and get guys in. And that's what this staff, I think struggled to do a little bit at times at certain positions. Yeah. And offensive line's one of them. Safety's another. Where Tennessee last year, Missouri, like why not get a couple of those guys in the football game and get them some run there when the game was over. And so I think that's where Heupel is really preaching the rotational stuff. It's not the every third series thing. I think it's more so when the game's out of hand one way or the other, let's get our guys in there and quit playing Jalen McCullough 792 out of a possible 794.
Well, I will say this. Then I don't know that you have to preach that. I think if you're the head coach on Saturday, that's what you're doing. if you look out there and the guy's out there, then you just go and tell the position coach, swap him out.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't call that. I wouldn't get into a rotate. I mean, rotational is playing 13 defensive linemen in a college football game.
Sure.
You know, but if you're talking about just to get in mop-up duty, I mean, how many times did you sit there and go, well, they're going to get Joe an extra series here, you know, and they're going to get, I mean, they got to get somebody to 100 yards receiving. Like, all right, well, just, I mean, you don't have to preach that. That's just a no-brainer. Take them out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, he's had to learn that too, because I will never forget running Hendon Hooker up 62-23 in the fourth quarter on the road at Missouri in 2021. I mean, that was about the silliest thing I think I've ever seen in my life.
I would say he's still learning that. I don't know that he's learned that. I would think there's still a learning curve to that.
But like last year, he can say he wasn't worried about redshirt as much as he wanted. And in the end, it shouldn't matter at all. But like Nico should have been playing in that Missouri game last year in that blowout. But is the end of the year, it's like, well, if you're here, might as well not burn it. So
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but did they not bring Joe back out to start the second half in a blowout game with a big bulky brace on his knee?
Yes, they did.
Okay,
100%.
I rest my case.
I was going to ask another question, but overall, anybody jump in here? What do you? There's off day today. 2 practices coming up on Wednesday and Thursday. Scrimmage number 1 on Friday. Rob, what do we need to hear? Like reports back from people who are there. What do we need to hear from Tennessee that they accomplished in scrimmage number 1?
I mean, you want to hear that Nico, made some plays. I mean, I don't think anybody is questioning him or doubting him, but I mean, you want him to, show it. I mean, to go out there and look the part. I mean, with everything that the defensive front has, I wouldn't look for a lot of success running the ball, but you want to, it's what happens at running back? I mean, you don't have a lot there. What do they look like? And more so than ever. Exactly. Great. Pretty much nail on the head. And then everybody was want to know what they looked like just in, pecking order with the injury and the ascension of Boo Carter.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's running back. I mean, and that's that's not the only thing, but for me, that's the biggest thing is Peyton Lewis, Deshaun Bishop, because Dylan Sampson's not going to get a ton of work. What do those guys look like? Where do you feel like you are with some depth there and starting to build that depth at the running back position? So offensively, for me, it's all about running back, and then defensively. What do you look like in the back end when the coach is not standing back there in the middle of the play, lining people up, telling people what to do? I mean, when you're truly playing football and you're playing fast and you're going, I mean, what does that look like? So I would say the interior of the secondary safeties and star and then running back for me are the 2 biggest storylines I'm looking to hear from Friday night, Austin.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys just said. I'll be interested to see what they talk about with the in-helmet communication, coming out of Friday night scrimmage. Like, how do they feel like that went? And, does Hubbs get stepped on? I mean, he's going to be like that gopher in Caddyshack popping up in parts of the Shields-Buckensfield turf trying to get the notes,
If we can only sneak in, right? I've only been thrown out of the stadium twice this summer, so can I get not thrown out by the football staff? Construction people have only asked me to leave a couple of times this summer.
Got to get those pictures for the war room.
You didn't have your hard hat on, Hubbs.
I did not have a hard hat on.
If you wear a hard hat.
Well, I think if he hadn't been carrying the sleeping bag, AP, I think that raised some red flags.